Hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, this card is going to be so much fun. I was just counting it out, 15 or 13 ranked fighters across the whole card, so that's something we don't see a lot of. All the even the prelims, not as exciting as say 299 or 300 upcoming, but hey, those two are special cards. But just happy to be back with a crowd. That's probably what I'm looking forward to the most. Anaheim, they've had some good fights in the past at the Honda Center, whatever it was called beforehand. So this should be another one. And main card, just banger after banger after banger, all the way through Volkanovski and Ilya Topuria.
Yeah, and I think this is a big upgrade from 297, the last event in Canada. Not only in card depth, I think we're 5 for 5 on these main card fights being interesting. I think 4 of these fights are absolute home runs of matchmaking, and the depth as well is great. The main event is about as good of a fight as you can make. So I'm thrilled, and I think we have a great card here. And I think it is only fitting to start right at the top at the main event. We have Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilya Topuria. This is, in my opinion, a great fight. So to start it off, I just want to gauge where you guys are at with this fight. How excited are you? Where does this fight kind of stack up in terms of excitement level? Jerry, we'll throw it over to you first.
I mean, this is the fight we've kind of been waiting for quite a while now. Obviously, Volk stepped in on short notice to fight Islam. Otherwise, this was the fight that was looking like he was going to be taking next. So Topuria is a monster, which is scary, but at the same time, and this might be controversial. I've seen people saying, and others all that talk about Topuria and how he's going to run over him, and how Volk's the 35-year-old and he's going to lose as the old guy. But Topuria didn't beat one guy that stands out to me in this division. He didn't beat Max Holloway. He also didn't beat Yair Rodriguez, the recent interim champion. His big wins are Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett. Yes, good wins, but he went to a decision against Josh Emmett. Did get the submission against Bryce Mitchell, which was pretty surprising because Mitchell's definitely more of a grappler. But just in terms of the excitement for this one, I don't know where I'm going with it, but I'm not concerned about Topuria as much as he thinks he's the one to go for ahead. Already written in says it's written in the stars that he's 15-0 on Instagram. He's already the champion. You can't look past anybody, and you definitely can't look past a guy in Alexander Volkanovski that has been so good across this division forever. His only 2 losses in recent times were both to Islam. I think we've discussed before that Islam might never lose in the lightweight division. The way it's going, he is one of those really, really talented fighters. And we got us a banger coming up on Saturday night.
Exactly. I agree. I think this is the for excitement level. I mean this is the best fight you could make at that division, and we're finally gonna get it. Um, and then yeah, kind of like you said, because Taporia just seems scary. I know the resume right now, but to be fair, um, I feel like he's done everything he's needed to do in the fights to lead up to this. Because the other one would have been yes, just that Max, but the of course any fight Max and Topuria besides Volk might be the other matchup to make that I think would be the best one you could make. But it's I mean I'm overall excited and overall I kind of have not really picked one yet. I could see it going either way because it's hard if am I looking at the Volk before he left featherweight that was just untouchable, or do I got to think of it as someone that just lost his last 2, give or take, he went up. So there's also that air or there's that aura of like what Volk are we gonna maybe see against Topuria?
Hmm. Yeah, and Anthony, you said this is one of the best fights that can make in their division. I think this is one of the best fights that you can make in the UFC. Period. I really struggle to see fights that are better than this. 145 also possibly my favorite division from both a skill aspect and an entertainment aspect. I think this division is one of the best in the sport, top 3 minimal probably, and I think this is one of the best fights in one of the best divisions. So I think this is a great fight. I think really highly of both of these guys. I've been impressed by Topuria. I'm I was a little slow to get on the Topuria hype train. I wasn't all the way bought in when he fought Bryce Mitchell. I wasn't all the way bought in when he fought Josh Emmett. I thought he'd beat Josh Emmett, but I, didn't think he was going to go out there and, dismantle him and win all 5 rounds cleanly and beat him up badly. So I've been a little bit behind the hype train here, but I do think, in my opinion, from I went through and rewatched a little bit, and I think it's probably safe to say that he is a top 3 guy in this division alongside Max and Volk. And I think this is a very interesting fight because skills, this is interesting, but also you have Volkanovski, who's one of the best fighters of all time. Top 10 probably. I don't, have a list written down of where I think everybody in history stands, but it's definitely one of the best in recent memory. Then you have Topuria, a fast rising prospect who looks really, really good, and seems to be catching Volk at the right time. So I think this is very, very interesting. And then looking at the fight itself, what are some things that you guys are looking forward to in this, or what are some things that you're looking at skills wise that could give an edge to either one of these fighters? Anthony, we can throw it over to you this time.
Okay, so like I said, or kind of like you put it up too, before we get straight into like the infight, I've never been big on the whole. I know there's a certain cliffs that people fall off when they reach certain ages, and I know Volk's getting up there, and so why I'm struggling going back to is I usually miss it late. I'll usually ride with the dude that's been doing it for however long, proven that he's the champion and undeniable. And so that's why I always kind of miss that first slip up when one of the newcomers gets it. But I have actually been a big Topuria fan for, a decent amount of fights now. And I just think his talent is insane. And I think I also love complete fighters. And I think that he's great everywhere in a sense. So, but the other thing is, so is Volk. So he showed he can wrestle multiple times, also beating multiple specialists such as Topuria, that is beating Ryan Hall and Bryce Mitchell with the huge grappling and jiu-jitsu and stuff. So I don't know. Here's the other thing. I'm trying to pick up the game plan too. I guess he did fight Yair, but it's tough when Volk's last, because that's the one things I think that stood him apart in those Max Holloway fights, where he would find some success in the first fight, find some weaknesses, come into the second fight with a different type of game plan that improved on that and then also helped his weaknesses. And since he's prepared for Islam the last 2 fights, I just don't quite know what the game plan could be, because honestly, I believe in Topuria's striking a little bit to be competitive and catch Volk, to where I don't think Volk can quite offensively wrestle against Topuria like he was able to against Max at points, or at least always have Max worrying about the takedowns or winning a round even by getting that takedown. And I just don't know if I see that in his back pocket to be a true path to success against Topuria.
Yeah, I'm honestly with you there a little bit. Topuria is one of the, if not probably the most well-rounded fighter Volkanovski's had to fight, take away Islam Makhachev. So it's one of those things that he has to defend the takedowns. Volk does. But with that being said, he got taken down against Brian Ortega in that fight in that 3rd round. Very close to being submitted twice. He just finds ways to get it out of there. Because even against Islam, he was on the ground at times. He was getting dominated, but he still found a way to escape, found a way to get back up. He was only put down because he was head kicked and knocked out in that second fight. It wasn't like he was submitted. So that's maybe something I'm a little more concerned about, is Topuria does have the power on the feet as well at times. That might be where he needs to keep the fight more so than on the ground, because Volkanovski has shown such good defensive wrestling and grappling that this is something that maybe Topuria is a little concerned about. Sure, he has 8 submission wins. He also has 4 knockouts. So there's that aspect. And I think the fact that Volkanovski fought Islam in 2 of his last 3, helps him on the wrestling side of things because he has fought probably the best wrestler currently in the 155 division. So I think it's going to be interesting. I do still think Volkanovski gets it done on the feet. He's proven time and time again that he can't be kept or can't be knocked out on and looked at, or not knocked out. Blanking on the word, but we'll continue.
Knocked out, or
No,
I mean, he's been stunned.
Yeah, he's been stunned, but apart from the Islam one at 145, he's just hasn't really looked in that much danger of being finished recently at all. So it's kind of one of those things I'm like, I need to see something from Topuria that really sets him apart. And I'm not sure if Topuria is the guy to do that yet.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on the skill things of this fight. Usually, I honestly probably dig too deep into skills sometimes. One thing I will like to quickly take a victory lap on is in the Alexander Volkanovski film study. One of the things I pointed out was that he's not good at defending head kicks. And I talked about how he only uses his hand and really doesn't show them much respect. And I said, if you aim it at the temple and higher, he can land head kicks. And then Makhachev went out there, landed the head kick. So I'm going to take my victory lap on that. But that said, in this matchup, Ilia Topuria, a lot of great striking skills, but he really doesn't kick much, and almost none of his kicks are above the belt. He'll throw leg kicks, but I don't see a head kick coming for Topuria today, or on Saturday, excuse me. But in this matchup, I think the grappling is going to cancel out. I think both these guys are really, really good grapplers, and I don't think either one is going to have enough of an edge to go out there and out grapple the other. We've seen them both defeat really impressive grapplers. I think they're both great grapplers themselves, so I think we're going to cancel out in that regard. But one thing I do think is interesting is that Ilia Topuria is a very unique. It's a guy, I shouldn't say unique because it's really not unique, but it's a type of fighter that Volkanovski has not fought in a long period of time. He's a short boxer that hits really hard and can grapple. The last time that he fought someone like that, you'd probably have to go back to Aldo or Mendez. If you look at Holloway, he's a much longer guy that does not hit hard. If you look at Yair, longer guy, really doesn't have as much boxing, great kicks. If you look at Ortega, he is a grappler that really doesn't have much offensive striking. So this is really a style of fighter that Topuria has not seen that Volkanovski has not seen in a significant period of time. And I think that is very important to note. And I think that can be what causes him issues here, because I think we're going to see a lot of boxing in the pocket. I think, these two guys are two great boxers, and I think that's where a large portion of this fight is going to take place. That said, Volkanovski, maybe he mixes it up and looks to stay at kick range a little more. Maybe he looks to get in the clinch, because I don't necessarily think he gets takedowns, but maybe he can go out there, get in the clinch, and land elbows. Very physical guy in the clinch, underrated clinch striking. So maybe that's an aspect he finds success. But I think this is a very close matchup. I think it's going to come down to strength versus strength. Both great boxers, great jab, a lot of power, great counters. Both press fighters very well. But one thing that really stands out to me is that Volkanovski likes to come forward and throw long combinations where he's moving forward. Had a lot of success with that because he can switch stances, throw power with both hands. But Topuria is great at moving backwards and landing counters. And I think he's going to land some really solid counters. And I do slightly lean Topuria, but Volkanovski wins. I'm not overly shocked at all.
I guess just one other thing on that skills aspect that I'm thinking of that might be something that Volkanovski could use to his advantage is the leg kicks. He has used leg kicks in the past, and this is something that if he's pushing forward, there's only so much Topuria can do to step back and evade those leg kicks. So it's something that might be just something I have in the back of my mind to keep an eye on.
I agree with that. I think if we see Volkanovski kick the leg heavy early in this fight, I think it swings a lot more in his favor if he's landing that leg kick hard.
I do think my one last thing was going to be kind of just the way this fight's set up is like the new shining star up and comer, undefeated versus Volk, someone that's been there, has his hand raised multiple times, multiple defenses. Is I can't think so far in the last 4 or 5 fights that I've watched at Topuria where he himself has also been close to getting finished or really in the deep waters. That Volk has seen multiple times now with 5-round fights with Max, first 5-round fight with Islam, and then like we were talking earlier, getting out of that guillotine was the bad one, but then also got put in a triangle in that Ortega fight as well, right? Not as locked in, but that's the other thing is we'll see what round 4 and 5 Topuria in a in a slugfest looks like, and if he still oozes the same confidence that he seems to have right now. But there's a difference when it's round 4, round 5, and you're facing off against one of the all-time greats that's still gonna go after you, still gonna put together his combos. It seems like he's not getting tired either. So I'll be curious to see how that works, those championship rounds.
Yeah, and then a couple other things that I want to address that really scare me in this fight if I'm a Volkanovski fan, is that he got knocked out 4 months ago. This is like a very quick turnaround to what, in my opinion, was a very brutal knockout. Yeah, the head kick didn't put him out stone cold like Leon Edwards, but like Leon Edwards did to Usman. But when you're looking at the follow-up shots afterwards, he got dropped and then he was out cold and ate 3 or 4 shots from, a mounted ground and pound position that looked pretty brutal. His head was bouncing around pretty badly. And he came out and said that this fight was going to be in January, but they pretty much forced him to push it back an extra month because of the knockout. So I think that is worth noting that, hey, this fight, this is like the earliest that he could possibly fight after that knockout loss. And then I have 2 stats regarding the main event that I find interesting. One, fighters that are over the age of 35 in championship fights between 125 and 170, they are 2 and 21. And I think that is, I don't think it's a curse. I think it's a stat. Maybe he breaks that stat, but we've seen guys fall off at this point with age. And on top of that, fighters that are, so Volkanovski currently has 5 titled defenses. Fighters going for their 6th are 7 and 6. So this is kind of a number that a lot of guys get tripped on. Izzy, Usman, Joanna Jacek, all lost going for the 6th title defense. And that's another stat that I found really interesting. So
numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Maybe it's coincidence, but this is like a spot where historically we have 2 things coming forward that says a lot of champs trip up at this period of time. And I know 7 people won when they were at this point, but it's all great fighters. So you're looking at guys like DJ, Silva, GSP, John Jones. Maybe he joins that tier. Ronda Rousey. So, but we've seen Kamaru Usman lost to Leon Edwards going for the 6th defense, and it was his first fight after he turned 35. So I do think that is, maybe I take a lot more into that than others, but I do think it is worth noting. And I do think that Topuria will have a power and durability advantage in a fight that's going to be a close boxing match. So 2 things that really swing me towards Topuria. So kind of a long rant there on stats, but that is my final prediction here is Topuria, because he is the younger guy who has more power and is more durable. So that's the way I'm going in the main event.
You had told me that first stat before, but I didn't know that 6th defense one. But that's what I was also saying earlier. I always go with the older guy too long to always stay on the throne, stay on the top of the mountain. And this is one where I'm finally trying to tell myself, if especially since I like what I've seen from the younger guy, maybe we'll give it a chance. Maybe we'll try to pick the upset before it happens.
Yeah, I will. I've tripped upon that 7-6 stat, going for the 6th title defense, because I was looking, just because I was writing the preview and I was like, well, I'd like to know how many title defenses Volk has, because it's getting to the point where pretty legendary in terms of consecutive title defenses. And I realized, I was like, we got a lot of people who stopped at 5, and
Mm-hmm.
come to find out, it's not a great number for people going for that 6th defense. So just an interesting thing. Maybe it means nothing, but I found it interesting. So
I do have one question for you guys. Looking ahead and say, because odds are very close. I'm not surprised right now with UFC showing -112 for Volk to -108 for Topuria. But Topuria, if he does get it done, are you surprised? And did you see last week that he said something along the lines of he won't be giving any one of Yair, Max, Volk another title shot? And it's more pretty much this is his division and he's running with all the new guys? Because that surprised me to see.
Well, first off, he'll know that it's not his choice, and Dana can do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's ideal for him, I guess, but I don't see it really working like that. Especially, we'll see what happens with Max. I think Volk can get his rematch if he really wants it. He deserves it too. He's also just filled in like that. He didn't have to do that to fill in for the Islam fight, so that's already a company guy move in that sense. And then if Max keeps beating people, I don't think anyone's ever going to turn down a Max title fight against someone that's not Volk. So, and then the newcomers have to win more too if he wants to fight new blood.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it would be incredibly stupid not to fight Max Holloway if that offer comes across the table. Maybe it never comes across the table. Maybe Max stays at 155 for the rest of his career, but Max, the biggest name out of anyone he can fight at 145 pounds, that name Alexander Volkanovski, and it adds the most to your legacy if you win. So I think that would be incredibly a very, very stupid decision on his part. I think he beats Yair pretty cleanly, to be honest. Just like I said earlier, him and Volkanovski have a lot of similarities. Volkanovski went out there, took him down. So I think it'd be silly to not want to fight that guy, considering you have proven concept that your style can give him serious issues. So I think that'd be silly. But, if he wants to, start fighting Movsar Evloev and Arnold Allen, say those guys get, one more win, and Allen, I guess, is a little further away, but there's some exciting 145ers in this division that could probably make for good fights. So wouldn't be the end of the world, but I don't necessarily think it happens. All right. The